A premium account on X Twitter is required to create live broadcasts on their platform. All right, and we are live. Hello, hello. Already, so people are still joining the session. I will give uh, people that are joining an additional minutes, and then we can get this started. All right. So in the meantime, if you can put the chat where are you from, so I can know which language you speak, that would be appreciated. By the way, I'm from Brazil. I'm based in São Paulo. So nice to meet you. All right. Okay, we have people join the session. I'll give 30 more seconds and then I'll get this session started. Hey, Rodrigo, good to have you here. Alrighty. So I think I'm going to start the session and then if people join the session, I can just do a quick recap, right? By the way, before I begin, so I'm Jamil. I'm the director of product here at BeetleWorks. I've been working here for the past almost 11 years. So next week I'll be completing 11 years here at BeetleWorks. It's good to have you here, as just mentioned. So I'm based in São Paulo, Brazil. And it's good to have you here. So this session is being recorded. So if you have to drop at any given point of the session, that's fine. So that's is going to be available in the our YouTube channel, which I'm going to show in a second, and also on our Instagram. Sorry, on our LinkedIn, not Instagram, not yet, but on our LinkedIn. And again, you can give it a watch if you can share with additional people that can also benefit from this section. All right. Okay, so let me start sharing my screen, and then we can get this search session started. I'm going to share. There we go. Okay, so I'm going directly to our YouTube channel, which is BeetleWorks. Um, the reason for that is because we received a question, which I'm going to show you right now. So, do you offer the workshops with subtitled Spanish or in other languages? And how can I share the registration link with Spanish and Bulgarian speaking future translators or colleagues? So, you can share the link, but the session will be hosted in English. But the recorded session on YouTube, so this is one of the previous one that I had. So, it was 13 days ago. If you go to YouTube, you can activate the CC here, the closed caption. And then on details, you can change the language. So mine is in Portuguese, so I choose to translate automatically into English. So you can choose another language. So for instance, we can search here for Spanish, which is this language in here, or any other languages. So please feel free to do that. So if you think that this can be beneficial to any people that does not speak English fluently, feel free to share the BeetleWorks YouTube channel, and they can just activate closed captioning and then change the language, and YouTube will generate the translation for that particular language. All right. Welcome, Jordan. Welcome, Jota. Good to have you here, as always. All right, so now let me put this in presentation mode. Um, just so we can begin. So the The main goal of the session is to present our platform and to respond to questions from our translators and linguists in general. Um, if you are full-time translators, if you are a reviewer, if you are in-country reviewer, even if you are a project manager from the translation agency, you can benefit from the session. All right. The goal here is to make this session, as always, as interactive as possible. So if you do have questions, please feel free to send those questions in the chat, okay? And I'll do my best to respond to those questions in the current session or in the following session. So this is our agenda for today. I promise that I'm not going to bore you with like a lot of slides, just to guide us through the session. So the topics that I have here are the top questions that we received in the past week. So I just responded to one that we just received right before the session about the translation of the subtitles for this workshop. I have some others which I'm going to cover in a minute. How to translate with BuildWorks. So I'm going to open the editor and show you how you translate content using our context-sensitive translation and our features in general. And then how to create your account, a basic setup of your account so you can get started using the platform if you uh, become a subscriber or if you want to test it out the platform for free. And if you have questions, again, you don't have to wait for that. If you have suggestions for the next workshop, if you have questions, please send in the chat. I will do my best to answer those during the session. All right. So top questions of the week. I already answered the first one. Let me cover the second. So are there any metrics about how fast most of the users can do one average page in any given language combination of a legal document? That's a great question. Let me, for a quick second, open a document that I have right here in my computer. Mhm. I believe this is the one. Let's see it. All right. So I don't have a specific answer for legal in particular, but we created this paper. So we created this study, analyzing a lot of content for different languages and different translators in different contexts. And that's the result. So the overall improvement when using context sensitive was 24%. As you can see, there are differences here uh, depending on the language. That can be related to the content type, to the adoption of the tool, to how familiar they are with the mechanism of AI and how AI improves over time. But that is the general improvement that we hear. So we hear feedbacks from a lot of clients. So I have some of them here. You probably know at least a couple of them, like Uber, Automationware, Harley Davidson, We Are Very Skilled Agile, and Zendesk are some of those clients that are using on a daily basis this context sensitive and all other augmented translation features we have. So based on this study, that's the number we have. So that's what I want to share with you. Again, I don't have a number specifically for legal, but that covers pretty much all kind of documents and different subjects. All right. Okay. So next up, what QA tools can we use to ensure the correct translation? All right. So let me open the editor. Let me open maybe any file. I don't speak Japanese, so neither French, but let me open French. All right, so let me zoom in a little bit as well so you can see it better. All right, and also I saw your question, Jordan. I will respond that in a minute. All right, so this is our editor for if you are not familiar with it. Um, we have this basic QA, not so basic, but the standard QA checks, right? That you can check for double space, you can check for glossary mismatch, non-breakable spaces that are not present in the source, that are present in the target, um, missing tags, and total length of the translation, and some other stuff we have here. So we kind of have like a lot of standard QA checks, but that's not the most what I would recommend in general for to ensure quality of the translation. So again, I can run this and I can go through a list where you have probably a lot of false positives, as you are probably used to already. And you can either choose on going to the segment and performing the fixes if they're actually an actual issue in there, or just hiding this, ignoring this issue, right? So that's the standard QA we have in the industry, right? In BuildWorks, if the augmented actions are activated, because that's an option, so you can decide whether you want to use it or not. So either at the account level, if you are a subscriber of the platform, or if you are not a subscriber, you're just a translator that's working for a translation agency, you can go to settings and you can decide, okay, I want to disable spell checker, I want to disable context sensitive, I want to disable translation smell because that's not being really helpful for me, right? You can do that. Uh, I encourage you to try it out before you deactivate, and I'm going to explain why and how this mechanism work. But going back to my segment, the way we can ensure that translation is good. So let me take a step back. So the decision maker here is the translator. So a human translator is the final decision maker. So regardless of what AI or translation memory or glossary or everything that's proposing to you, you are the specialist. So you are decision maker. So that's the first thing, right? But in order to assist you, we have the context sensitive translation, which I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail in the next few minutes. But before that, I want to show you the translation is mouse. Let me run. Here is running. So translation is mouse is a semantic verifier. Having what we call an mouse is like you are sensing the excuse me, our mechanism is sensing that something may be off. Does not mean that's incorrect, right? So having an smells on a segment does not necessarily mean that this is incorrect, but it means that there are we suggest so large language model based on the source and the current translation. It suggests that you have an additional look at the given segment because something may be off, right? It's try to guide you so you can, if you agree with that, you can make adjustments to make your translation better. So that's an example. So translate, I don't speak French, by the way. I don't know if any of you here in the chat does speak French, but basically this says, okay, the word amazing, which is the last one here in the source, is translated as étonnant, which can mean astonishing or surprising. A more accurate translation is this context might be incredible or fantastic to better capture the positive connotation of amazing. So it is not just telling you this is right or this is wrong. It is trying to give you more context why in this context, this in here, though one of those may be a better translation, right? So and you as a decision maker you decide yes that makes sense, let me adjust accordingly to this, or no, I don't agree with that, my translation is already good. So that's the a common term used in French France, I'm going to keep it, that's fine. So you can just confirm the segment as it is, and that's it. Again, you are the final decision maker, but the large language model, the augment actions we have here is trying to assist you on that. And that, along with the context sensitive, again, we're going to explore a little bit more in the next few minutes, help you to try to find a translation which will most likely be ideal for a particular segment. Again, AI is not telling you that you have to use that. It's just trying to suggest something to you that may be good, that may be correct for that segment in particular. And the smells is also trying to warn you of potential errors when they may exist. So that's not the case for the segment. So you can have an additional look at that. So it's trying to assist you so you don't spend additional time, for instance, or I have to go to this entire segment here to find if there is a missing comma or a missing period or even a missing tag, right? So the AI mechanism is trying to help you to find that so you can easily fix that and you can focus more. Okay, so how my translation will be that will be understood by the final audience. So this is a marketing content. So this is a burner that goes to a website. So let me spend some additional time doing some research about it, maybe in other brands. So that's, for example, I'm translating a content for a marketing agency. Let me do a quick research on other marketing agency websites so I can see how they are translating that. So then I can adapt my translation in a way that makes more sense, cause more impact to the target audience, right? So we spend more time on that, and you let AI do that job of finding missing commas, missing tags, missing periods, or something that may be off, and we spend additional time on researching things that are more important and more impactful for the target audience, right? So that's how BuildWorks can assist you on ensuring that the quality, the translation is correct and the quality is good. Before I jump into the last question I have in here, let me just check the questions from Jordan here in the chat. So the first one, have you thought of including some functionality regarding connecting and the clients with translators within the platform? That's a great question, Jordan. Yes, we did. And that's probably, I mean, it's hard to tell what's going to happen in the next 6 months, right? So in this current world and technology we have, and the way that everything is evolving so fast, we don't know what's going to actually happen within 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. But the way we see it is that that is going to be something that we see more and more. So we're probably going to have like companies, so translation companies or end clients that will go to market. So they're going to like marketplace, right? A marketplace for translators, and BuildWorks will be that marketplace where you can say, okay, so I have this content here that's marketing related content. I don't have maybe a department that takes care of translations for my company, but I need that translated. So how can I have the confidence to contact the right person that will fit my needs for that particular project or for the translation of my website or for anything? And then the platform would help these people to connect directly with translators. So you can, for instance, have the translators have certain badges in the platform. Okay, so this translator is a specialist in marketing, in legal content, in healthcare. So he has translated 1,000 words in the past 2, 3, 4 years. So that's the previous experience of this translator. So that's at least for now how we see this evolving. Again, it's hard to tell for sure based on how everything is evolving, but that's something that we're discussing internally, and that's probably what we understand that's going to happen next. So create this kind of marketplace where companies and translation agencies and translators can connect with ease, right? So I hope this responded to your first question. Then a comment, I'm now a heavy user of the platform. That's great to hear. Sometimes I need to complete and deliver a project regardless the QA issues. Is there a shortcut to skip these checks, excuse me, and enable force to deliver of a project? That's a good question. because that's a subject that we discussed uh, several times in the past few weeks with people. So starting with this the simple answer, no, there is not. So whenever you try, at least for now, whenever you try to download a translated file, it's always going to perform these checks in here. That's one thing. There's a reason for that. I'm going to explain why. Before that, we have, as part of our roadmap, yes, an implementation that will give more flexibility to user and will allow user to download files without that have like tag mismatches, right? There's one thing that we are still trying to figure out the balance between giving more flexibility to users or not, because there's a bigger problem in there. So tags, you're probably already using a lot of tags, but what's happening a lot is that people are not used to how tag work. So some tags are simple, like you have, for instance, this file does not have tag, but for instance, you have a tag in here, like that's a bold tag, right? So, and that will just turn this nulls into bolds. That's like just formatting, right? So if you remove that tag from the target, that's fine. Again, we're going to remove the formatting from the target, but that's fine. That's not going to break the file. Now, if you are speaking about like an application, so the file that's being translated is going to be used for an application, for a client, a mobile application or a website application, missing tags or tags in the wrong position can literally break the application. So, and or not even allow the file, the content translated to be imported back into the platform. So that's how important tags can be. Again, that's not applicable to every use case. So right now, we have to have these tags fixed. Some of them will break the file. Whenever we identify that, we do not currently allow people to download these files. So we alert there are tag mismatches, then the file cannot be downloaded. We are going to add some flexibility to that and let the user decide whether he or she wants to download the file, regardless of any tag mismatches or not. So that's something that we're going to work probably in this last 2 quarters of 2024. But yeah, currently, respond to your question again, currently not. But we're going to add that flexibility. And the reason why we currently not allow that is just because in our experience, based on what we see, that can break the file if people don't know exactly how that tag is going to impact the final output. All right. But thank you so much for your questions. That was great. Okay. Um, the platform can even use some statistics and recommend translators to claim based on. Yes, that's the idea. So the idea, so going back to the previous subject about like this marketplace, is to have the linguists to be automatically classified. When I say automatically, I'm not saying like AI is going to try to guess whether the translator is good or not. But for instance, you as a translator receiving a job that's like a legal job and you performed well. So you have received a good feedback from the client. So that will probably like add to your profile a tag or a badge or whatever you want to call it. That's going to say, okay, so Jordan is a specialist in marketing. And of course, if at some point that particular translator starts performing better or good in other subjects, other badges or other tags is also going to be added to the same user. So we do have like a lot of translators and that have like that are specialists in marketing, that are really, really good at motorcycle content, at healthcare. So again, that's another subject that we don't know how it's going to play it out in the future. Some people say that in the future we are going to have like fewer generalists and more people that are specialists in certain subjects because that's going to make them survive when like this AI wave comes. Some people believe that that's not going to change at all. But in my opinion, the AI is going to is not this the AI is not going to make a decision. So in the end, the translator is going to be final decision maker. AI is just going to help to instrumentate and try to guide for that particular client that has a website, that has marketing content, that's I don't know, motorcycle related, which pool of translators the platform will recommend based on previous records, right? But that's a great suggestion, and that's kind of how we see that playing out, right? All right, so going to the last question on my list again, if you anyone in the chat, the room have other questions, please feel free to send in the chat, all right, as I speak. How can we compare different versions of a document and see how the changes made from step one to the last step? Is there a way to filter changes by order? Okay, that's a good question. Uh, I don't know if this question is coming from like a translator or reviewer, or if it's coming from a project manager from a translation agency, because there are a few differences in terms of um, how that can be seen in the platform. But let me start with a translator, right? So as a translator, let me open, excuse me, the editor. I click on this segment here. I can go to translation change. So this tab in here. From here, I can see every single change that had been made, in this case by myself, of course, to this workflow step, but I can also see changes that have made to other workflow steps. So in this case, in this project, there's none, I believe, yet. But if I had someone else working on this content, I could say, okay, so let's say that I'm the reviewer, but I want to see how this was originally translated by the translator, right? So then I could click on this translation and see how the translator, which translation that translator choose for this particular segment. So that's one way to see. Now, still as a translator, another thing you can do, let me just change here my user at the quality module. So this is our quality module. I'm going to explain this a little bit. So basically, as a translator, I perform, so in this case, I'm a translator. I translate this document and someone else review it, right? So if this person changed anything in my translation, I'm going to be able to see all the changes in here. So like this. So I can see that I translated originally máquina with the capital M, and this person, this reviewer, changed to change máquina this way, right? And the same thing here. So I translated explore nossa plataforma in Portuguese, and the change that person made was to with everything in capital in this explore nossa. This person changed to this way. So explore nosso sistema de gestão de localização. So I can see all the changes that have been made to my translation in the next workflow step, right? So that's the linguist perspective. Now, from a translation agent's perspective, the translation agents could see, for instance, let me open this. So if this project, let me open any one of those. If this project had like 4, 5, 6 workflow steps, the translation agency would be able to say, okay, so that was the source, this was the original translation, that was the review one, then that was the review two, that was the encounter review. So you as a translator, not a subscriber, a translator for a translation agency, you can see your translation and the review and the changes made by the next workflow step, right? So the idea is you can learn from that. So you can see, okay, the encounter reviewer from this client changed my translation like this. Why, right? Because the 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 translator can also add comments to it. So for instance, okay, I can see that the reviewer changed aprendizado de máquina, aprendizado de máquina, to correct the capitalization to align with the standard terminology used in Portuguese. All right, so now it's clear for me why these have been changed this way. So I can learn from that, and next time I can apply this knowledge, right? Of course, there is also the translation memory that's also going to store the new change here, but the idea is that other than glossary and translation memories, you also understand how the client wants that to be translated, right? So that um, you keep that pattern that the client is following. And the same here. So they also explain why they choose this new translation as opposed to yours. So now going back in here, so those are the difference as a translator. You can see from the editor, you can see the change that have been made to a particular segment in any workflow steps. And also at the quality module, you can see the change made in the following workflow step by the reviewer. As a translation agency, a project manager, you have, or a subscriber of the platform, even if you are a translator and you are a subscriber of the platform, then you have access to the full project, then you would be able to see all the workflow steps and how that was changed throughout the different workflow steps. All right. Okay. And before I move on to the next subject, which is the platform, creating the platform, the account in the platform, let me see, Jordan sent something. I noticed the find and replace function does not work as expected. We sometimes need to compare similar lines. Do you think we can have something like the words find and replace function? Sometimes it should compare similar line. I don't know. I'm not sure if I understood correctly this, Jordan. So let's do this. I will probably need some context in order to answer this question. I'm going to, so our support team is in the session as well. I'm going to tell them to contact you. So if you can then provide them like a screenshot or something so they can see how exactly you are using the find and replace, then they can respond that to you. And then if that's not working properly, as you mentioned, and there's a better way to do the find replace, yes, then we can think about like changing to something similar to the Word document. But real quick, before I move on to the next subject, let's just do a quick testing here. Okay, so we have the filter, find replace. Let's try to change anything here. I don't know, maybe this. And let me know if you are using the same way that I'm doing, right? So I'm going to change to the English word fundamental, like this, right? So I basically change this to the original translation. Then if I click on replace, okay, so I'm in the locked segment, replace, okay, fundamental. If I do, before I do that, let me try to find other segments which has, excuse me, it says fundamentals. Okay, there are no others. Let me try to find another word which appears multiple times. Maybe below. Let's see if you have below multiple times. Okay, we have multiple below words, at least two. So let's try to change then bureau to company. And then do a replace all. I'm not going to match and neither use case sensitive. Let me going to replace that. All right. So now let me try to find the bureau. Okay, so bureau has changed to company. Again, let me know in the chat, Jordan, if I'm using the same way that you're using, or if I did not understood your question correctly. Reading your question again, I understand that it works in most cases. You are more concerned about, okay, maybe it is not being efficient because there's something else that should be in there that would help translators to use it better, right? If that's it, please just let me know. Either way, I'm going to ask my support team to reach out to you so we can better understand uh, this point that you just raised. All right. So now, next up, let me create an account in BeautyWorks. Before I go do that, so just so you, if you are not familiar with the platform, we offer a 14 days free trial with no credit card required. You can go to our website, which I'm going to open here. So it's beautyworks.com. Let me remove this pricing from now. All right, so that's our website. By the way, fun enough, this is also, if I'm going to the web previewing here, this document, so it's a Word document, but the content here is also is a copy and paste from our website. Let me just type here beautyworks.com and go. All right. So it is trying to match the translation we have on website. So as you can see, these have been translated already, like this, right? And I confirm the segment. So it is replacing in real time the translation. So like this, commencer. This is an image. What else we have here? This is probably not translated yet, and so on. So as I go to the file and translate the content and confirm the segments, if the content that I'm using is from a website, I can preview it as long as the website is publicly accessible, like our website. So as again, the same website, I just entered in there the URL and I could translate it in real time. All right, so that's just a cool thing that I want to show you. So now creating an account, you go to beautyworks.com/pricing. You have multiple plans in here. I'm not going too deep into the details. You can go in here and check. So there are some difference depending on the plan, not only the cost, of course, also the most importantly, the features that are available for each plan. The solo one is mostly used by translators, so that are translating their own content. Boutique and Clockwork are mostly used by translation agencies, and Quantum by enterprise clients, right? But depending on the agency, or depending if you are a translator, but you are translating with some 2 or 3 or 4 friends, you may use a different plan, right? And again, you can go and check the details in the website. My only goal here was to show you, okay, so free 14 days trial, free trial, no credit card required. To create your account, you just click on any of those plans. I'm going to create a solo plan. It's just for myself. I can enter my name, email, get started. That will trigger an email notification to my email. In that email notification, I'm going to be asked to set up my password. With that password, along with the email that I just entered here, I'm going to be able to access my own account in the platform. And then we go to the next step, which is initial setup of the platform with your own accounts ready, which of course is not going to be mine, because your account will be empty, just to make it that clear. So you can now right away, you can just go in here and create a project. Okay, so I'm in a rush. I want to test that as quick as possible. I'm going to show you that. So you can just go right away to creating a project, and you can select a file or multiple files. That's going to be uploaded. Um, I'm going to keep it simple, all right? So there are other options here. I'm not going to cover that right now. Otherwise, this is going to become too complex right off from the bat. I'm just going to select myself as a contact person, and I'm going to give a name here, so workshop 9. I can keep it this language, or I can select other languages if I want to. I'm just going to keep Portuguese and maybe Spanish, or Latin America, and that's it. I have a glossary, I have a translation memory, I have a price list. I can change the workflow steps if I want. I'm just going to keep translation to keep it simple and create. Again, I can create the project right away. So if you are in a rush, you can do that. I don't recommend, especially if you are testing the platform, because you probably want to create multiple projects so you can get used to this process, to the platform. So that's why I would recommend doing a basic setup, which I'm going to show you in a second how to do. It's pretty simple, and you just have to do it once. So once you do that, basically create a template which will be used for every single additional project you create. All right. Let me see real quick the chats, Jordan, and thank you, Jordan, for sending all those messages. Appreciate that. That's really helpful. This is good enough. Just wonder if there's like a fast shortcut to do even faster. Okay, not right now, but that's something that we can certainly add to the platform. We add that to our improvement list for sure. The goal is to add additional shortcuts because that's something that I already heard from different translators that shortcuts makes a huge difference when you are translating content like for 4, 5, 6, 8 hours per day, right? So thousands of segments. So working on improving and adding additional shortcuts is certainly something that we'll do to the platform. Um, about this, do you think it makes sense to put in my contact details? Okay, about the project creation, let me just go back real quick in here. Do you mean like the contact person here? So the contact person, we usually, that's not a requirement, but you usually put the stakeholder name, so the requester name. So let's say that this is a project from uh, my the end client. So you work directly with the end client. So let's say that you work directly with, I don't know, Harley Davidson. So you are going to select the person from Harley Davidson who requested this project to you, right? That would be the contact person. Makes sense to put in mind. Okay, I got you. I think I got you. So you see, you mean the contact details like in your user profile, right? Like this. So you go to your own user and you set up like the details in here, like your country and everything. Is that what you mean? I mean, from if you have your own accounts, that does not change anything at all. I mean, in terms of usage of the platform, if you're working for a translation agency, then I think that would be helpful because they will know, okay, so Jordan lives in this country, Jordan, then they kind of know, okay, so this is Jordan's time zone, this is, it's a holiday in Jordan's country, so probably he's not available and something like that. But again, for your personal account, that's not a requirement, that's not needed. All right, so now going back to the setup, I'm going to be quick in here. The only thing that I want you to keep in mind when you are set up in the platform, your own account, is that organization unit is key. So I'm going to talk about a simple use case, right? So you just want to give it a try to the platform and see how it goes, right? So when you create your account, you are going to have already one organization set up for you. You can create additional if you want to do that, that's fine, right? But focusing on like a simple use case where you just want to create some projects to test a platform, let's use this one that have been already created. My recommendation would be to set up the source and target language that you use the most. So again, that's a template. Whenever you create a project, if you recall when I was creating a project, those are the languages that have been automatically selected. If those are not the languages that I use, I can just change it here. And when I save, when I create the next project, just is going to pull the source and the storage automatic, so I don't have to do that selection manually. Okay, so language is one thing that I would recommend. Second thing would be translation settings, whether you want to pre-translate with machine translation or not, with translation memory or not, or if context sensitive or not. That's another thing that I would recommend at least checking out to see how you want to pre-translate the content automatically. And also, the platform is also going to create one glossary and one translation memory for you. So those would be the two. Um, you have to set those as default first thing, so that are going to be automatically selected for the project that you are creating. And the translation memory in particular, you have to set as read and write, so you can actually use that translation memory. One last thing, so that's it. One last thing for both translation memories and glossary. As you can see, these translation memories and glossary already have some languages in it. If those languages are not the ones that you are going to use, you have either to update the glossary and translation memory to add the language. So let's say that, okay, I translate into Arabic, I have to add in here. Otherwise, when I create the project, this translation memory is not going to be used because there's no Arabic in it, right? Or this glossary in this case. Or if the source for your translation memory is not English US, then you have to create another translation memory or glossary, which is simple. You can just go in here, give it a name, select the organization where you want to add that source and target language, and create. If you already have a glossary and a translation memory that you want to import into BuildWorks, you can also do it. You open the translation memory and glossary already created. You go to import file. You can browse and import your translation memory here, and the same for the glossary under the glossary tab in here. Last thing, formats accepted. So for glossary, you can import the standard glossary format, which is TBX. I'm going to put here in the chat. So glossary standard format is TBX, and translation memory standard format is TMX. So if you already have one of those files that you have been using in the past, or you have your own translation memory, your own glossary, you can import directly into the platform if you have this format. If you don't have, for instance, you have an Excel file for the glossary, you can contact our support team at help@buildworks.io, and they can help you to convert these Excel files into TBX and import that to you in the platform. All right. Okay, so I think that cover the setup, and just going back now to the project creation so I can show you what I just did. I changed just one thing, right? I just changed the language. But if you see now, as I changed the standard language for my organization units, whenever I create a new project under this particular org unit, Portuguese Brazil is already selected here, right? So that's how powerful the organizations can be. Again, when you create just one project, you're not going to feel a difference for one project, but if you're actually testing the platform, you're probably want to create multiple projects. You're going to bore you to every time select the languages, translation memories, and glossary menu, right? The platform does that for you. Finally, last subject for the session today, I promise, because we still have 11 minutes. Context sensitive translation. I already tried to cover that. I mean, again, I'm going to be quick about this. Now, going back to my previous recommendation, which again, you can decide how you want to use it. If you do activate the large language model for your translations, either on your account, if you are the account owner, or you keep it activated in the editor if you are a translator performing work for a translation agency that has it activated, it's important that you understand the mechanism. AI itself, GPT, whatever, is not doing anything alone. So what makes the translation powerful? It makes the translation powerful is that the large language model is learning from the client knowledge base, which means translation memory, glossary, and machine translation. All that put together, along with additional context, for instance, previous segments, next segments, all that contextualize the large language models or GPT or AI to provide you a translation which most likely will be good for that particular context. Okay, Jamil, the translation that I received was not good. What now? So I'm going to deactivate AI. Again, you can do it, but let me show you how you can improve that because it is learning. That's the cool thing about AI. And that's why I always try to explain the mechanism. So let me open another project here in a language that I speak, but I promise that I'm going to translate that for you so you can also understand. So maybe this one. Okay, the one that I just created. All right. So whenever I click on a segment, AI is proposing to me a translation based on what I already have in my glossary, in my translation memory, like this. But again, let me use this one. That's a good example. And by the way, the translation here, this mistake in the translation was made on purpose, right? So just so I can explain. Translate twice as fast impeccably. Traduza o dobro de forma impecável. It's not the best translation, in my opinion, right? So, but that was made on purpose. How? Because we teach it AI through the glossary. That's how my clients want that to be, excuse me, to be translated. So I put in the glossary that twice as fast is o dobro. So the difference, the main difference, there are several, but the main difference when you compare it to translation memory and glossary is that translation memory is storing content. And the machine translation is also proposing something to you that's static. They're not evolving as we go. They're not looking at the glossary and making changes to what have been stored previously. The AI is doing it. So if since I changed I put twice as fast as o dobro in the glossary, that's how my client wants that to be translated. AI is looking at what I have in my translation memory, what I have in my machine translation suggestion, which is different, right? So it's duas vezes, which is probably the most common translation. But the glossary has a higher priority in comparison to the translation memory and glossary. At least that's how we set up the platform. That can be changed, right? But anyway, AI learns from that. So let's say, okay, so Jamil, this translation is good. It's not good. So that's incorrect. That's bullshit, right? Okay, so even the translation analysis point me to that this translation probably is not the best translation, right? What am I going to do? Okay, if I'm not happy with this translation. This translation does not make sense. What I can do is to teach AI how this should be translated. So let's translate this duas vezes, which is literally twice as fast, right, in Portuguese. And now I'm going to ask the engine to run again, that now that I have updated my glossary. And as you can see, the previous suggestion from context sensitive was this traduz o dobro. Now is traduza duas vezes, which is exactly what I just added to my glossary. Now, of course, not only for this particular segment, but for any other segments where I have twice as fast, the large language model, the context sensitive, we already have this knowledge and we know, okay, so twice as fast is duas vezes, right? It's not o dobro. And that's how we teach the engine. That's how it improves over time. And again, for me, it's important to explain the mechanism because you can get frustrated maybe if you just open the file right away and maybe there's nothing in the glossary and the translation is not as you would like it to be, right? And then you can understand, okay, so the translation here is not how I want it. I don't want to use price. That does not make sense in this context. So let me deactivate the AI. You can do it. That's again, there's no problem with that. But you can also think about, okay, how can I improve that? You can go in here You can put maybe precificação in Portuguese. And now that will guide AI not only for this segment, but for the other segments, so it knows exactly how you want that to be translated, right? So that's the cool thing about AI is learning for you. So you are the teacher, right? And the decisions you make, whether adding terms to the glossary, whether making changes to a segment and confirming, both ways you are teaching the engine. And over time, you are going to see good results when it comes to improving your performance and how much can you do in the same time frame using AI versus not using AI. And that's how we got to that 24%, which I showed in the previous presentation, in terms of improvements, the translator performance. And that's why also some languages perform better than others, because there's also an adoption curve. So, and again, to improve the AI is going to take time. It's going to take time and also requires you and anyone that's using the mechanism to understand how it works. And it works through your knowledge, through your input, whether from the glossary, whether from the translation memory, or from both, even better, right? But you are the teacher. You are pointing to AI how that should be translated from now on, right? I hope this was helpful. Jordan, I'm going to ask the team to rush out to you probably tomorrow. It's already 6 p.m. here in Brazil. But thank you so much for your questions, your comments, your feedback, and everything. Thank you, Jota, as well, for your time. Again, if you want to share this with someone, maybe that does not speak English, you can share the link on YouTube or even our channel on YouTube. There's a lot of interesting videos in YouTube about our brand, about AI, and about everything we have and we offer. And in there, you can turn on closed captions and ask YouTube to translate into the language that that person speaks, so that the person can understand and benefit from this section as well. All right. I hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed my time with you as always. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much for being here with us. And let's keep the platform improvement, and let's make sure that people that are using the platform can over time see that the platform is making your life easier and easier, right? So not only AI is just one piece of the platform, which is important, but it's just one piece, that everything else is also improving over time. All right. Take care. Have a nice and a great rest of week, and talk to you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.